I started off this project by first drawing out my parts on a piece of 2x1 that was poplar. So I got a handle and then the shaft of the sword. For this project I wanted to practice some unplugged woodworking. So I used a back saw, a coping saw, just a sanding block, and a few other tools like chisels. So here I'm cutting out some of the waste from the cross guard and just going to remove that with this coping saw and use the chisel to clean it up. I made sure to mark out the cut lines on both sides so that way I could have nice straight cuts with the chisel, and then just do a little bit of paring with my hand there. The use of sandpaper will really make this piece smooth, so I'm just trying to take off the major bumps. Another reason for me to choose this particular project was I wanted to practice some of the different ways of joining wood. I thought I would start out with something simple like a cross-halving joint. This is done by making a series of relief cuts with the back saw and then using the chisel to remove the waste. I am still relatively new to many aspects of woodworking, and I thought that this was a really great learning experience in cross-halving these two joints together. The dry fit went well, so I decided I'd go ahead and do the cross-halving on the shaft near the grip of the sword. Removing wood is easy, adding wood is hard, so I made sure that I would not take off too much wood from the shaft when doing my cross-halving joint. So I did some slow paring here and there and a lot of dry fittings to make sure that these two pieces would stick together tightly and join well without any wobble when finished, because any wobble will be magnified throughout the years of use and play with this toy. I decided it would be best to round the corners with a block plane, so I just started shaving some parts off here and there, although I made a mistake. I should not have shaved like this near the joint because it took away too much wood and made the fitting of these two parts a little obvious. I wanted it to be less obvious, which you'll see that towards the end of the video. So yeah, just rounding it over with the block plane. I found this to be pretty good, and it got the piece close to where it needed to be, and the sandpaper just rounded it off nicely, taking away any sort of really flat spots caused by the plane. The key to doing this also is a sharp tool. I made sure to sharpen this up with some 8000 grit stone before using it. This is where I took a little bit of creative license, which I stole from a YouTube or a Google image search for wooden sword Zelda. Somebody had used a 3D printer to make a sword, and they made these little points, which I thought added a lot of character and flair to the crossguard. So I didn't keep entirely true with the 8-bit fashion, where you'd have like block-like corners. I thought that it should be a little bit more true to what it could look like. And the interesting part about the Zelda sword is the sword that appears on the title screen of The Legend of Zelda, which looks more like a rapier that you would find in Europe in the 16th and 17th century. It does not actually appear in the game. Now I'm hitting up all the pieces with the 80 grit, 150, and then 220 grit sandpapers to produce a nice smooth feeling there, and joining it. So it's so great to get that clamp on there. After a few hours I undid it, and I decided I would go ahead and try to stain this with some food coloring, and it didn't go quite as well as I wanted to. I primed it with just some alcohol because I noticed that it had a tendency to bleed, and then I just mixed alcohol with the food coloring and tried to paint in the taped areas, but unfortunately it still just bled right through. So I found this very difficult and disappointing. As you can see, those lines are not sharp, and I wanted sharp lines, so I went out and bought the right stuff, the spray paint, and taped it up properly. A couple different coats of green, and then I'd go ahead and change over to the orange and retape everything. And one of the things I messed up on this part was the blade of the sword. I should have done a better job of protecting it from overspray during the green painting, and a little bit here during the orange painting. However, it was able to be sanded out in the end. Find the information about the paint I used in the video description. I did purchase these just from a big box store. One of the things I am a little bit impatient about is paint drying. I just want to get on to this project. I want to see this fulfilled, so I should have waited a little bit longer between dry times. However, it all turned out well in the end. While in the video game, this is just known as sword. In Zelda folklore, as it is, it's become known as a wooden sword. And I felt like it would be fitting to keep the wood grain, so I used some wood stain here. I believe it was golden oak, and that really darkened it up without hiding the beautiful grain that helps dignify it. All in all, I was very proud of the sword. I used some clear coats to help seal it.